Hey everyone, it's Dr. Nastel. I want to chat with you a little bit about the quote analysis work you're being asked to do in week 3. So first, again, your favorite summary. You're going to start by writing an MLA entry, and that just means the way that you would write it in a works cited page. The links are, there are 2 links here that take you to different web pages that help you do your MLA formatting. You can start with something like EasyBib, but in my experience, they are wrong 100% of the time. Not by much, but always by a little bit. So the best thing is to use like the MLA handbook itself. You should see that on all of the assignment sheets, I have listed in MLA format the source information. So that's for Pedagogue. Oops. Okay. So you're going to write your summary, and again, you're going to focus on the main ideas. Who is the author? What is the title of the chapter or article? What's their purpose? What do they want their audience to think, feel, or do? What are the most important things from the author in the text that you have selected? And remember that this is a neutral description. This is your explanation of someone else's ideas. Our goal with a summary is to say something more concisely and more clearly than the original author did. So even if you disagree, you have to present it as if you do agree. And you're not going to use the source's language in a summary. I have been giving lots of feedback on that this term. So if you are quoting from the source, that doesn't really go in a summary because a quote deserves so much explanation. And if you're using their language without attributing it to them, that's also not okay, because the US has very specific ideas about what plagiarism is. And if you're representing someone else's language or ideas as if they're your own, that's considered to be plagiarism. If you're interested in that, you should check out the first article available on our list for this week to see what these authors have to say. So once you have written that summary, then you're going to do the quote analysis. And you're going to break it down very, 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 very deeply. So my recommendation is to go back to your annotations. Choose something that stood out to you as being super exciting, irritating, interesting, confusing, just something that led to a strong reaction. It's much easier to write about something like that than it is to write about something that's kind of ordinary. Once you have identified the passage, you're going to paraphrase it. Again, paraphrasing is just clarifying something complicated so your readers will understand it. I don't want to see the author's language in a paraphrase. You're going to take the quote and explain it to someone in our class. Then the next step, the start of the analysis, is to explain what that passage means related to the purpose you've identified in the summary. So how does this one passage help us understand the purpose? In our own writing, we have to think about this too. How does all of the information we include help us fulfill our purpose for writing? And then finally, you're going to explain what the passage means on a broader scale. And that can be in any or all of these ways. It could be related to you, to your community, to other texts. And I think that doing each of these steps is really important for us to truly use analysis the way it was meant to be used, to break something down into smaller pieces to understand the bigger picture. It might feel like overkill. I get that. But doing this ensures that you have a clear idea of what the text is about, that you are understanding it, and it gives you lots of opportunities to think very deeply about what it means. Why is this significant? Who is it important to? Why should it be important to us? those are all really important questions to ask ourselves as we're writing and as we're reading. So for a quick example, let's say I was looking at that data visualization article. And I thought that the quotation here, so the conclusion really stood out to me. Data and its representations increasingly pervade academic and non-academic contexts as technologies enable a data-driven approach to many aspects of our daily lives. Indeed, it seems like the adjective data-driven is now the equivalent of legitimate, valid, the right way to gain knowledge and make decisions. But data-driven decisions aren't inherently better. Rather, they are surely flawed. If we don't understand the data and the conclusions we can properly draw from it, and if we aren't able to factor in the strengths and weaknesses of the data, its gaps and omissions, and the assumptions and biases underlying its collection. So at first, this stood out to me because I can relate to it. I know I have heard data-driven countless times. And at first I thought maybe the first sentence would be a good one to analyze because it's pretty complicated. There's a lot of words I have to make sure I understand the meaning of. So data and its representations increasingly pervade all these different contexts. Like this is to me it was like a heavy sentence. But really all it's saying is that like data is everywhere. And technology maybe lets us access more data, and so we're seeing data in more places, both in education as well as in our daily lives. So that's not that exciting to me. It might be. I mean, I guess I could kind of maybe extend it and talk about like a way that data has significantly affected my life, but in general, to me, not that exciting. But the next one, I really think I could talk about. So data-driven decisions aren't necessarily better. We have to understand the data and the conclusions, the strengths and the weaknesses, the gaps and omissions, the assumptions and biases. So this to me is something that says, it's more like, although data-driven is common everywhere. Like, I guess that's a bad way to start it. But we hear the term data-driven in many different contexts, and it's often used. I guess I'm going to combine these two sentences, and it's used to convey the legitimacy of something or the validity of something. But that's not good because those are the words that are right here. So using data-driven decisions is one way for people in academic and professional settings to gain support for their decisions, something like that. But they're not necessarily better. That's too close to the original. But data-driven decisions are just like any other decision, and we have to look carefully at the drawbacks and the benefits. For example, data and data collection can include assumptions and biases about the people involved in the process. And maybe I'd put assumptions and biases in quotation marks. And then I would go on to say an example of a data collection effort that maybe left out a whole community of people, or an interpretation that said, well, hey, on the whole, all our students are doing really well. But as we look carefully, we see our single parents are not doing well. So that the analysis part is our opportunity. And then I could say, sorry, I'm being pulled on by my preschooler. Then we could say that this is significant to look at the performance of single parents, because they're a significant population at our institution. So we should look more carefully about how this thing affects all of our student communities. So that would be one way for me to kind of start here and end up with that broader connection, which I hope is helpful for you. So again, I would just like to reiterate that I know this is a long, tedious process. I promise it will be fulfilling once you do it. You'll have I think that you'll feel more confident and a sense of accomplishment. And I also would like to urge you to try out your ideas in our discussion space. You don't have to do this alone. It's a lot of work. This is an accelerated class. You're doing it all by yourself remotely. So let's use the opportunities we have available to us to build our community, to work together, to collaborate, and to be successful in the class. So I will be in touch again soon.